Let's talk indie releases February 2023. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is the indie releases coming to you in February of 2023. This video is a little bit late, I do apologise, I'm getting it out mid-month, so a lot of these have already been released, but hey, that means that you can go and purchase them right now if they sound good. Before we jump into the video, make sure you are checking the description box down below for links to my Discord and social media should you want to come along for the ride. Let's jump into these because there are quite a few coming out in February or have already come out because, like I said, this video is late. On February 1st, we had a smorgasbord of fantasy drop. The first one being A Contract in Sol Forne. This is the 8th Chant Book 2 by Christopher Warman and Ellen Marsh. I hope I pronounced those names correctly. This is a follow-up to the Seasons of Albedo that was released, I think, last year. Don't quote me on that. The blurb says, a djinn, a boy, a terrible contract. I wouldn't have asked for that if I knew I could ask for anything. Valen is an ancient djinn on a quest to seek the artifact for which she is enslaved. Her centuries-long journey lands her in the southern port city-states of Sol Forne, where she is certain the artifact is held. There she meets Doravan, a disaffected youth from a dissolved noble house. Though their initial connection is cursory, their bond becomes one that may endanger the entire cycle of nature. Now, I have looked at the first book and gone and chucked this on my to-read pile on the Kindle Unlimited realm that has a lot of holds for me to go and check out at some point because the cover, the blurb, they sound pretty cool. They're fairly short. I think they're about 200 pages each. It might be a nice palette cleanser. So that one is coming out on February 1st. We also have Wizardom Legends Temple of the Unknown, Tor the Dungeon Crawler #1 by Jeffrey L. Koenig. This is epic fantasy / sword and sorcery, and it says, a retired master ranger has disappeared and his daughter is desperate to find him. When approached with this quest, Tor Rensure declines until he discovers this man went missing while following clues leading to a temple of legend. The magical artifacts rumoured to await in these ruins are too alluring to deny. Joined by a dysfunctional crew armed with magical weapons, Tor sets off on a quest to locate, infiltrate, and pilfer the Temple of the Dark Lord. What he finds is something completely unexpected, as monsters, traps, and betrayal turn the quest from dangerous to deadly. That sounds cool. Sounds like a cool literary RPG style of book, and that's coming to you, or has come to you, on February 1st. Also on February 1st, we have The Third Realm. This is A Thousand Li, book number 8 by Tao Wong. If that name sounds familiar, it's because I read Town Under, which was co-written by him late last year. I read that book. This is a book 8 in a series, so I can't go too much into it, but this is a progression fantasy series, so if you're into that, check out A Thousand Li. Then we have one of my anticipated releases for the year. This got delivered very kindly to my Kindle on the date that I purchased it, and that was 11th Cycle by Kian and Ardalan. This is Mistland Book 1. Moving on to February 2nd, we have another few books coming out. So the first one is I'm going to put 2 in here, even though one comes out on the 2nd and one comes out on the 23rd because of the same author and the same series. On the 2nd, we have A Still Voice Beyond the Shallows. This is a Druid's Crown Book 7 by David Hopkins, and this will be followed up on the 23rd of February with A Winding Path to Alda Feren. This is an epic fantasy novelette or novella series. All of these are about 80 pages long, and the covers have me really intrigued for something that has been shelved in the epic fantasy realm. These beautiful, sort of very soft, florally covers. To have that and then to be partnered with the epic fantasy genre, I'm very curious as to what this story is about. Like, it has me very interested to find out why these covers relate to the books themselves. So, I mean, it's got my attention, and books 7 and 8 are coming to you in February. Another one out to you on February the 2nd is Pandora Unleashed by A.A.1. This is straight up romance. The cover looks interesting, so if you're a romance reader, maybe give this one a go. It says Pandora must be punished, but is her punishment justice for her crime? In a time when gods are mischievous, Pandora is the subject of a cruel joke. Now she must turn the tables and exact her revenge. Perhaps the punishment was just, after all. On February 5th, we have a novella which looks very intriguing. Love the colours. This is Alloy Cooperative by N.J. Noakes, and they say that this one is a bit of a genre bender. This is an anarcho-syndicalist... I can't read these words. This is an anarcho-syndicalist fantasy novella about a blacksmith unionizing his forge to overthrow the nepotist boss and turn it into a worker-owned cooperative. I'm sure we've all had thoughts like that in the workplace, and this cover is pretty cool, so it may be worth checking on out. On February 6th, we've got a couple of releases. The first one is another one of my anticipated releases. This is The Way of Unity by Sarah K. Bolstrop. This is a religious undertone, dark fantasy. I cannot wait. I've read the blurb out on the anticipated releases video, which again will be linked down below, and I don't want to put it in my mind fresh again before I get into this book. So selfishly, I'm going to move past this one. Then on the 6th of February, we had The Price of Power by Michael Michelle. I have a full review for that one, which I'll pop up in the cards up above if you want to check that one on out. On February 7th, we have Many Shades of Midnight. This is by C.M. DeBell, and this is epic fantasy / grimdark. This cover is giving me some serious 007 vibes, just with the circle and the person in the middle. Maybe it's just me, I'm not sure. This one says, a mysterious enemy threatens the continent of Eliasa, spreading a deadly sickness that kills or transforms everything it touches. In desperation, the king of Lenkara sends an envoy to his disgraced former military commander, alias Rain Sarah, recalling him from exile and begging his aid. But when a discovery links the contagion to the mining of Istrium, the most precious mineral resource in Alesia, it pits Alice against... I've pronounced that name differently, against the powerful mining syndicates in a conflict that could have catastrophic consequences. Because the syndicates will fight to defend their wealth and power, even if the cost is everything and everyone else. Sounds interesting. Cover's kind of cool. Maybe check this one on out. On February 7th, we also have Vevin Song. This is by Jonathan Neves Mayers. This was a very different dark fantasy. It says epic fantasy / sword and sorcery. I would go probably more on the dystopian track myself. It does feel very dystopian in execution. I will have a full review out for this one as well. It was wonderfully different. It dealt with some thematics which I think are very important, like how we process grief and anger, but it did so through that dystopian lens. It was really cool. I will say the prose for this story can take a little bit of brain work, but it's worth it in my opinion. I believe it was my first 5-star of the year, so maybe give this one a go. We also have The Face of Hekate by Matt Larkin coming out on February 7th. This is Tapestry of Fate, book number 6. This is epic fantasy, grimdark, and historical fiction all rolled into one. These covers are so good. These covers demand to be pride of place in hardback on a shelf in front of a camera because they are so friggin' delightful. It is book 6, I'm not going to go too far into it. If you are interested, book 1 is free. The audio for book 1 is free on there's a YouTube page that does indie books for indie audiobooks. I can't remember what the page is called, but I will link the first book, Pandora's Heart or Pandora's Gift, down below if you want to check that one out, because you can listen to it here on the platform for free. Also on the 7th of February we have linked, this is Gilded Blood book 3 by Rachel Renner. I have seen this one get a little bit of buzz over on Facebook and also Bookstagram. It is a book 3, so I won't go too much into it, but I really like the colors on this cover. The rainbow phoenix is amazing. But yeah, I'm hearing some good things about this series. It is a epic urban fantasy romance, so if you like this kind of things, bookish popcorn I like to call those sorts of books, is where you'll find a good time. Also on February 7 we have Eclipse by Herman Strumagel. Sorry, Herman. This is Fractured Orbit book number 1, and it is a dystopian sci-fi. It says the truth will cost them everything. Django had everything he ever wanted. Now he's lost it all. When Django uncovered an unexpected truth, he didn't know how it would end the lives of nearly everyone he cares about. Left only with his sister, his best friend, and an uncle who has some unhinged ideas about what might exist outside of the space station Eclipse, he must follow the truth where it leads, even if it leaves him with nothing. Mika can't escape her dubious past, and now must answer for past sins. Mika thought she had left her life as a notorious space pirate behind to care for her ailing mother, but the past comes knocking after her ship, the Redemption, answers a cryptic distress call. Forced to face a deal she made with the devil years ago, Mika has no choice but to step back into her old life and make another hesitant pact with an eccentric pirate. Django and Mika's paths collide as they embark on a journey that will shape the fate of a civilization built on half-truths and the backs of others. Rumors of civil war circulate through the Syndicate's orbital empire, catching both Django and Mika in the crossfire where the stakes are far higher than they realize. It's like a pretty fast-paced sci-fi, if you ask me. I think there's a bit of buzz around this one over on Twitter. I think I've seen it jump around, and I think I'll be reading this one in Sci-Fi September or in September, with the notion of it being Sci-Fi September, where I've actually already pre-booked a whole bunch of fantasy books to read. So, there's that. Jumping down to the 16th of February, this is Blood and Steel, The Legends of Thesmar by Helen Shura. Again, sorry Helen if I've pronounced that and butchered it. This one is epic fantasy and sword and sorcery. I have a friend that absolutely adores this author. I believe they've written in the YA space previously, and this one is branching out into epic fantasy within the adult realm. It says, with her death foretold, Althea Zoltar only has 3 years to become what she's always dreamed of being, a warrior legend. Women are forbidden to wield blades, so she is trained in secret her entire life. Now racing against the clock, she fights to secure her place in the elite guild charged with the protection of the 5 kingdoms. The sparring and hazing of the new trainees border on deadly, but even more dangerous is her growing attraction to the wilder Hawthorne, her unwilling warrior chaperone. All around them, schemes are afoot and darkness looms. We might have some romance elements in there as well, it seems. Will Althea pass the perilous initiation test and take her place as a champion of Thesmar, or will the invading evil snatch away her dreams before it starts? Sounds like it could be a fun time for people who like fantasy romance. Maybe give that one a go. On the 17th of February, we have the Doctrines of Fire. This is the Edinburgh Doctrines Book 1 by C.L. Jarvis. This is historical fantasy, and it sounds so good. I have pre-ordered this one. I don't know when I'm going to fit it in, but it's going to be a priority because it's got dark academia, historical fantasy vibes. I friggin' love it. It says, Edinburgh 1779. An academic rivalry turns deadly. George Stevens is a lousy medical student, lacking the social and financial resources to succeed in Edinburgh's elite medical school. His dreams of becoming a physician appears over before it began. Then George comes to the attention of 2 famous professors, William Cullen and Joseph Black. Medical students are dying mysteriously. The professors suspect a disgraced former student is to blame, and they need George's help uncovering the truth, believing their partnership will bolster his academic standing. George agrees. Their investigation pulls them into the murkiest, most dangerous corners of Enlightenment Edinburgh. The professors are secret wielders of fire magic, but their foes are courting even darker forces. With violence threatening to erupt and George struggling to navigate this confusing city, getting justice for the dead will be harder than he imagined. Ooh. Fantasy, mystery, dark, historical. Love it. Can't wait. This sounds great. On the 20th of February, we have an author who I suspect just writes as fast as Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly reads, and that is JDL Rizal, coming out with the Stone of Iron and Omen Rune War Saga book number 3. He just released The Last Ranger, and book 2 for that series is on the horizon. This is an author that I did actually read the latest book first before jumping into a backlog. I am interested in this series, and I'm also interested in another series of J.D.L. Rozel's, but between him and Rob J. Hayes, my TBR is basically set. So selfishly, I don't really want to read a whole lot of this one because I am interested in getting to it at some point. On the 22nd of February, we have A Hired Blade. This is the Eleventh Cycle by J.C. Rycroft. This cover is gorgeous. This novella promises to pack a punch. It says, a sellsword's bargain, a burgeoning desire, a future balanced on the point of a blade. Sounds pretty cool. I do not know if this is part of a longer series. Look that one up just so you don't spoil anything for yourself, but it is a novella set within a world. Set within the same world of maybe a book series, I'm unsure. On the 28th of February, to finish us off, we've got a few books here. We've got the Starlight Dragon, Realm of Camellia by Liz Delton. This is book number 4 within the series, and we have our very first YA entry on the last day of the month. This cover would have got me if I was much younger, and look, it's still kind of dope. The blue dragon, it's very eye-popping, very catching, and I would have gone, yes, if I'd seen this when I was in primary school. Book 4, so we're not going to go into it. We also have on February the 28th, The Awakener. This is Darkblade, book number 6 by Andy Peliquin. Sometimes when I go through these lists and I look at these covers, the cover and the blurb of whatever book in the series we're at will make me curious about the first book, and that has happened in this one. So I've gone ahead and I've ordered the first book in this one. I think they're fairly short. Actually, no, it's a lie. I looked it up. It's 436 pages. Fairly standard for a fantasy series. It's not a tome. It's not super short. Nicely in the middle at under 500 pages. I had to go ahead and pay the monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited because of these lists. I kept getting so excited about books and the budget just wasn't there. So a lot of them are on Kindle Unlimited. It's economical and it would be rude not to put this one on my radar, so I've grabbed that one. I hope I'll read it at the next point before I retire. That's the aim. Then we have Owlfeather. This is Blodued, book 2 by Christiana Matthews. I probably butchered that series name. This cover is doing some interesting things. I'm getting some wild Animorph vibes. You're probably too young to have watched the Animorphs in the 90s. Was it 90s, early 2000s? Not sure. But there's a half owl, half face thing. I'm intrigued. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I don't like it. But if you're interested in this series, Book 2 is coming out later in the month. This is Beware the Hunters of the Night. The final one that we have on February 28th to close off this month of indie releases is Phantom's Lament by Noelle Nichols, the Shadow Creed Saga book number 2. Phantom's Lament is the second book in an anime and Asian-inspired series, the Shadow Creed Saga. It says if you like stories about noble characters, vivid world building, and characters torn between their code of conduct, you'll love this epic adventure. I do like all of those things, so yes, I have bought book 1. Thank you for asking. As always, these lists do not come from me, they come from Rob J. Hayes, who has a blog that you can enter into if you have an indie release coming out at a later date during the year. He normally goes a month in advance, and also the epicindie.net calendar. I will have links to both of those down below so that you can go ahead and pop your books on them if you want to be in one of these videos or if you want to be on one of those lists. I do this so there is a different media format for these books to be spoken about. If you are interested in any of these, let me know which one in the comment down below. If you like the content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.